I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for showing up on this Tuesday. Anyone here for the first time? What brings you here? Those who want to share why you're here. Now that your hands are already up, yeah.
It just came to mind, and I had some friends that were coming.
You just were sitting around watching TV and said, "I'm going to go to the Dharma Bum Temple." That's good work. Yeah. Nice. Well, welcome.
Looking for something that would be a little peace of mind and fulfillment.
Yeah, a little peace of mind and fulfillment. So you're saying what you've been doing thus far isn't working for you?
Not quite.
I hear that. Yeah. Who else? Hands, first time?
My good friend Nicholas here really enjoys coming here. He's made it a regular practice, so I decided I would check it out.
How has it changed Nicholas's life, you think?
Sometimes I ask him what he gets and what he enjoys from coming here, and he says that it really helps him tackle his anxiety. I definitely can relate to wanting to tackle anxiety in a lot of different ways. This is like his time to put everything aside and just rest for a little bit.
Yeah.
And focus on himself for an hour or so. Easy.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Did you know my name before that?
Say again?
Did you know my name before that?
I did. I just never said it. But yeah. You know, it's funny you say that, though. There are probably trying to look around and see if there's anybody here, because I would do it too. There are people I've probably sat with for 7 years or 10 years, and I have no idea what their name is. Yeah. Which I think is kind of weird and sad and beautiful all at the same time. Because what happens is, in a space like this, you come together for a period of time. It's like the Buddhist teachings on impermanence. Everything comes together for a period of time and then ceases to exist. It's just how life works. And somehow these things like names, we put such heavy meaning on names. I mean, they're just names. You all right with it?
There's a cat going.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. That's right. We put these heavy meanings on names as if they define something about us. But they're just names. I mean, we didn't even pick them ourselves usually, right? Somebody gave them to us. And so we put all this meaning, if you know a name, that means that you actually know someone. I mean, how many people's names do you know and you don't know anything about them? So I've always enjoyed sitting with all these people all these years, and I might not know their name. I don't know where they come from. I literally don't know anything about them, but I know what it feels like to sit in the presence of people and know what that moment to moment intimate feeling is, to just sit with people. I think it's one of the most incredible things in the world. And then we all scatter and go our ways in less than an hour, and I may never see you again. Or you may keep showing up day after day because you just haven't figured this shit out yet, So, yes. That's funny. What else? Anyone here for the first time? Want to share why? Yeah.
I was invited by my friend here just Tuesday.
Yeah.
First time, just actually got in yesterday.
Nice. Good choice.
Seemed like a good way to get away from distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. Buddhism can be a distraction also. Meditation can be a distraction, but in most cases, meditation, Buddhist practice is a healthier distraction than, I don't know about you, but the things that I used to turn to for distractions. This tends to be a little bit, not better than, but as far as health-wise, a little bit higher on the list, you know? So, yeah. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. To those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free as you are to say hello. Chat box on the screen somewhere. And that's funny. Whenever I log in like a minute late, they all start panicking as if everything's not happening. So that's the only reason there's a whole stream of thoughts here. I actually thought people had all these questions already, but they're just like chiming in, wanting to know where everyone is. You know? So glad you're here. We'll start with the meditation practice. For those who are new or maybe sitting for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you want to be comfortable. If you aren't a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders, hands are on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means you need to move. Most important, you're not going to stop your thoughts, you're not going to think nothing, you're not going to empty your mind. Your mind will race. I'll say things periodically to either wake you up or remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to the present moment. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention. Focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, big fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments of the practice, just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. the body still, rested. And the speech quiet, aware of all sounds. And the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakening. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us in this room, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions, That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to the way you feel now is closer. How you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And that present moment, as we all know, is often filled with conflict, chaos, challenges, difficulties. And this practice is not running from that. It's learning to be with life as it arises and responding from a place of loving kindness and compassion. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in every moment. And that's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, we spend so much of our lives trying to fix and change what's outside of us. This practice is working on you, your thoughts, your words, your actions, and bringing that into every situation and seeing how that changes your reality. But it is a practice. It's not a quick fix. It's not an overnight solution. It's not a 6-week course and all of a sudden everything is better. If you haven't figured it out by now, every single day of your life will be filled with challenges. It'll change. Probably majority of the problems that are what you would call problems in your life right now, maybe a month from now, 3 weeks from now, 6 months from now, they will all be resolved. Many of them. But guess what? You'll have a whole new set of challenges waiting for you. And that's our life. This is it. The Buddha said life is filled with dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, experiencing suffering on varying degrees throughout our life. Doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means we're going to be challenged. So the question is, how do we respond to that? And that's on us. We spend much of our lives blaming others, pointing fingers, trying to find some reason everything in our life is so hectic. But this practice is just holding up a mirror and reflecting back on ourselves. So, with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. Go from there. Yeah.
I just had a baby granddaughter.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. It's astonishing that something so perfect can come from me. And I don't know, I haven't been around long enough to know the importance of family in the Buddhist practice, and I would love to have you talk about that.
Yeah. So the question, to paraphrase for those who didn't hear it, you just became a grandfather, baby granddaughter, and your first comment, which I'll probably spend more time talking about, was you didn't know something so perfect could come from you. The second part of that was the importance of, what is the importance of family in Buddhist teachings, yeah?
Yes.
So the first part, man, so much to say about that.
You feel like I stepped into a trap.
You always do, but it's just, that's your karma, the nature of your path here. But you don't give up. That's the beauty of it. So the first thing is, and I don't want to plant seeds that your granddaughter may. How old's your granddaughter?
About a month old.
Yeah. So a month old, right? So up to this point, she probably hasn't done anything wrong yet. I mean, she's a month in, right? She's pretty much doing everything she's supposed to be doing, right? Has not gone against the stream, most likely. But there is a chance, maybe 3 months in, maybe a year in, your granddaughter might do something she's not supposed to do. You think that might happen at some point?
I would say so.
You think by I don't know, maybe the time she's 3, she might get in trouble for something?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Will she still be perfect at that time? And will you still be shocked that she came from you? Or if she starts screwing up as a 3-year-old, will you then think, yeah, that makes sense? And then you'll blame yourself for what your 3-year-old granddaughter is doing. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So take it easy on yourself a little bit. Right? The point is, I wouldn't credit I'll just put it this way. I wouldn't credit her current perfection, which I'm sure she is, or her future potential non-perfection. She's living her life. Right? And you're living yours. And you're not nearly as bad of a person as you think you are. So once you stop seeing the world through those lenses of how could something so perfect come from me, you'll be kinder and gentler to yourself. And that'll make the rest of this practice so much easier, right? So the second part, family. Very often, especially for those who might be new to Buddhism, you see pictures of monks or nuns, and they're in robes, and they're in a forest somewhere, and they're under a tree. And so it might seem as if Buddhism means that you kind of renounce all of family, right? Actually, I don't know how many years ago, not that long ago, but a couple years back, there was we get a lot of school field trips here from different locations, and it was I'll just put it this way, it was another religion, and they were studying other religions, and so they brought them here. And this was a high school, and they asked a similar question, but the way they asked it was their teacher taught them that since Buddhists practice non-attachment, actually they called it detachment, that meant that Buddhists can't love their mother. That's what they were taught, right? So understand that the Buddha himself left this kind of path as a prince and left his family, renounced worldly pleasures and possessions, and became a homeless, wandering ascetic, a monk. And at 29, that's what he did, and he lived the rest of his life until he was 80 that way. And at the time of the Buddha, there were monks, and then there were nuns, and they definitely renounced all of that stuff. Now, they came from families, obviously. They didn't disown them. They still loved them and cared about them, but they had committed to a spiritual path that wasn't creating any more family for them moving forward. But even that's not necessarily true, because maybe they had a brother who then got married, and then now they have a new sister-in-law, right? So they're still family, even though they chose to kind of renounce from that way of life. Now fast forward to modern day and anywhere along the last 2,500 years, right? Not all Buddhists are monks or nuns. In fact, in the world, probably most of them are not. And you don't have to give up family to practice Buddhism. But most importantly, I think, is I wouldn't even worry about becoming a Buddhist. I would just focus on, can I be a kind, gentle, happy person? And if that's as a Christian, a Catholic, a Muslim, Jewish, Mormon, pagan, Hindu, whatever, be that. Absolutely love your family. Who challenges you the most? I don't need the answer. Your laughter gave that away, right?
Yeah.
If you think it's crowded now, come here around Thanksgiving time, right? It like doubles. So family's important. Not just because they challenge us the most, but they're family. So love them as much as possible. They will absolutely piss you off. They will challenge you. They will lift you up. They will tear you down, and everywhere in between. But that's your family. So, yeah. Sorry if you thought being Buddhist meant you could disown them. You're stuck, dude. What else? Yeah. I see a hand, no body. There we go. Yeah, hey.
Hey. So I have a question about, I sort of hear in meditation practice that, one of the things is to observe our thoughts, not cling to them and watch them dissipate or go. Is there space in meditation to actually follow a thought, to contemplate? I guess I think even about like the Buddha sitting under the tree. I mean, was he just watching thoughts go, waiting for an inspiration to strike him, or was he contemplating on the nature of suffering and
Sure.
about it?
Yeah.
How does that work in my own practice?
Yeah, so just to paraphrase for those virtual maybe didn't hear, in essence what you're asking about is in the practice of meditation, you understand kind of watching the breath, or you said, not letting thoughts get carried away. But is there time and space for kind of running with the thoughts, and what was it like for the Buddha under the tree, and did he focus on, the suffering and the nature of his own mind? I'll put it to you this way. There are a lot of different types of meditation practices, right? I think in Buddhism specifically, right? Well, let me just say this in general, because, in places like this, people are exposed to all different types of meditation. Buddhist, non-Buddhist, doesn't matter. But if 1,000 people lead you in meditation, they'll lead you 1,000 different ways. None of them necessarily right or wrong. None of them good or bad, right? Hopefully they're not charging you a bunch of money and they're not telling you to go harm people. Otherwise, you're probably safe. So whatever works for you is fine. A very kind of broad view within Buddhism, you have three major schools, right? You have Theravada, or initially called Hinayana, which is when Buddhism started Southeast Asia, right? It left India, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. You have Hinayana Buddhism. About 500-600 years later, it goes up north, China, Japan, Korea. You have Mahayana Buddhism. And about 1,000 years after the Buddha died, you have, where it goes into Tibet, you have Tibetan Buddhism. So you have these three major schools, right? Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Yana means vehicle. So Vajrayana is diamond vehicle, Mahayana is greater vehicle, and Hinayana is lesser vehicle. They changed Hinayana, the original one, to Theravada, which literally translates to of the elders. Because they realized in Buddhism, you probably shouldn't have one school called lesser than and greater than. So it's referred to kind of the elder school of Buddhism. So within those, you have various meditation practices, right? Very simply, in what's called the Anapanasati Sutra, the Buddha talks about observing sensation of breath. If breathing in and taking a short breath, know you're breathing in and taking a short breath. If breathing out, taking a long breath, know you're breathing out, taking a long breath, right? You have what's referred to as shamatha, really where Zen comes from, which is just observation of sensation of breath. Then you have what's called vipassana, which translates to insight, right? And insight into the nature of body, mind, thoughts, consciousness, all of this stuff. A deep, deep understanding of everything that is happening at that moment, which is completely different from just abiding in sensation of breath, right? And so there are stages to that are taught. And so to answer your question, yes, there are, in Tibetan Buddhism, a lot into visualizations, guided meditations, things like that. These are called tankas. So there'll be, Tibetan masters will have you focus on tankas and use them as like a visualization, guided imagery, things like that. So even within Buddhism, there are many different practices. What I caution people is very often I didn't take what you said as doing this, but very often we'll think about, okay, what was the Buddha contemplating sitting under the Bodhi tree? And we'll try to justify that. We're sitting there doing meditation and we're like, what am I going to have for dinner? Did I do my laundry? Did I leave the stove on? Why did this happen when I was 8 years old? And so we might kind of justify that as, well, the Buddha must have been thinking and I'm thinking, so we're both meditating, right? Insight is an awareness to deep understanding of what's going on. Not just like random stuff, sorry, children in the room, random stuff, right? So just kind of watch that. I think for the average person learning to practice, I find it helpful to recognize the mind has wandered, come back to the breath. The mind has wandered, come back to the breath. Now, if you're going through a lot of stuff and you're sitting in meditation and you're starting to really sit with something that's going on in your life and you're trying to understand it and sit with it and be with it, I wouldn't worry about whether you call that meditation or not. Right? Is it beneficial to take some time deeply understanding the nature of what's going on with you? Absolutely. What we call that, I think, is irrelevant. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is there a difference with dukkha between suffering and that dissatisfaction you speak of? Because I think I've had this feeling in my life where I've seen some really real suffering, like people being in pain and in hospital and things like that, and then my life is just simply dissatisfied and but equally suck.
Yeah.
On my own level.
Yeah. So first, you need to watch more cartoons, eat more cereal, and find more fun things to do. Regardless of what I say about suffering and your whole question, let's look at what's behind that. Drastically shift the direction of your life. Okay? Because you're way too young to be that miserable. Trust me, I know. So completely blow up whatever you're doing right now and alter that. So everything you're asking about becomes less on all levels. That would be my initial thought. But very specifically to the question, the word is dukkha, and it gets translated. That's why I almost never start with saying suffering. It gets translated most often in the English language to suffering. So it's like first noble truth. Life is filled with dukkha, suffering. That sounds so miserable. Right? I had a friend years ago, he said 25 years ago in college, he started to learn about Buddhism, and he opened up page 1 that said, life is suffering. He was like, well, this sucks. Those Buddhists are all miserable, right? And then 20-something years later, he realized there was more to it, right? That there was also joy and happiness and a way out of that suffering. But for me, years ago when I really began to... so when you go to a deli, and you order a sandwich, assuming nobody is cutting mayo or whatever, what do you tell them about your sandwich?
Oh, I just said, I'm going to say it needs to be something in there. I say that.
Okay. So you tell them no mayo. By the way, for the record, you should try leaving the F word out of your order, and you might get it right more often. I'm just saying. In Buddhist teachings, we talk about right speech. And so if we're kinder and gentler in the way we order a sandwich, whoever's making it is probably more likely to make it without mayo. But that's up to you. So you say no mayo, and you get a sandwich that has mayo on it, right? And if you lie to them and tell them you're allergic, you're also lying. So we don't want to do that. But unless you're allergic to mayonnaise, you get the mayonnaise, it's not going to kill you, you're not happy. This isn't the end of the world. But this would also be dukkha. Things that just don't go how we want them to, which is a lot in our lives. And that dukkha can be extreme death, loss, pain, suffering, seeing loved ones hurt. There's very heavy, serious dukkha in the world and in our lives. There's also dukkha like a sandwich not being made the right way. Your latte didn't have as many pumps or whatever as you wanted. They put too much oat milk and not soy milk. So these are like little dukkha that we also experience every day. And I think the heavy stuff, for me personally, it's always going to be there on a certain degree, but so much of our day is filled with like other dukkha that doesn't really matter, that in the grand scheme of life makes no difference whatsoever, but it destroys us. So we spend so much of our day just crushed, physically, mentally, and emotionally, by all the little things that don't work out how you want them to. And this is where you practice gratitude for just be able to order a sandwich or have a latte or whatever it is. So you see the difference? Dukkha is heavy suffering. It's also just discomfort, disease, dissatisfaction, things that don't go your way. The temperature, it's too hot, it's too cold, that's dukkha. So, different. What else? Yes?
How do I control my anger?
How do you control your anger? Oh, man. And you're how old? I just want the people in the back to hear it. 13.
Oh, I love this kid.
Yeah. I have rarely I've been working with 13-year-olds since I was about 13. About 15. I was 16. You know why I was working with 13-year-olds when I was 16? Because I got kicked out of school for being an angry... You read lips, right? All right. You seem like a sharp, smart 13-year-old kid. I've rarely met other kids that were less angry than I was at 13. Now, this doesn't help you at all. I'm just letting you know that I understand what it's like to be a really angry 13-year-old kid. And it's different for everybody, but when we're 13, and as you can ask anyone in here many of them have many years on you, your anger will be there to a certain extent your whole life. But it doesn't have to destroy you. What do you think, without getting into specifics, what do you think makes you angry?
My brother.
Clearly you missed it without getting into specifics. So your brother, okay? How old's your brother?
8.
8. So you're a big brother. Who do you think your brother looks up to?
Me.
You. Who do you think your brother wants to be like?
Me.
You. Do you want your brother to also be angry? No. Why?
So then he doesn't get mad at me.
So then we'll take that, right? So then he doesn't get mad at you, right? Do you love your brother?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even though he makes you angry?
Well, like in the moment I don't, but I know I do.
But you know you do. And even though you want to get rid of him half the time, you still love your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Do you love yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you're angry, it often comes down to not getting what you want. Right? You're probably angry at your 8-year-old brother because he took something from you, or he didn't do what you wanted, or you did something you shouldn't have done and he told on you, right? So there are all kinds of things that an 8-year-old brother is going to do that you don't want to have happen. In Buddhism, we call this craving and desire, which every single person in this room can relate to, because they all want people to do things the way they want them to. I want you to, what's your name?
Cooper.
Cooper. Hooper? Mm-hmm. Hooper. I want you to look around the room. I would like everyone in the room to raise your hand if you're able to get everybody to do what you want them to all the time. Now, Hooper, look around the room. Do you see any hands up? This is a bunch of old people in this room. And they can't get people to do what they want. And this practice of learning about meditation is to understand that sometimes we just have to appreciate and love the fact that people are going to do what they're going to do, and it's never going to be what we want. But they're doing their best. I know he's 8, he's got a little way to go, but he's trying. Yeah? And the anger that we feel simply comes from people not doing what we want. Do you like being angry? No. It doesn't feel good. Because then we hate other people, we hate ourselves, we act out in anger, we punch people, we punch walls. That hurts, you know? Better than a person, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
And if we can learn to understand that people are never going to listen to us, then we won't be angry. We already know nobody. Just tell yourself, people are never going to listen to you the rest of your life. And then you'll never expect them to. And then you'll never get angry. And then you know what will happen one day? You'll be shocked. You know what your brother's going to do?
What?
He's going to listen to you. As soon as you stop expecting your brother to do what you want him to do, he will magically start doing what you want him to do. It's the craziest thing. But if he doesn't, that's okay. Is your mom sitting next to you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to your mom every time she wants you to do something?
Nope.
Nope. We appreciate the honesty, right? Does she still love you? She appreciate you? She's grateful for you? Is he ever going to listen to you the rest of his life? Nope. So you kind of have an agreement. But arguing is worthless. We all just get angry inside and then we do stupid things. And when we do stupid things, we get in trouble. And then we do more stupid things. And then we get in more trouble. And then we go to jail. You don't want that. No. Right? So, a little bit of anger is okay. Sometimes anger just means that you care. Right? That you want things to be okay. So a little bit of anger is okay, but just watch it. Notice when you're angry and just say, hey, this is anger. This sucks. And it'll go away. And that was the reason for me why I said to you that, I knew what it was like to be that age and angry, because it'll go away. It won't be there forever. And you got a long life ahead of you. So, does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else? It's tough to beat that, but.
I'm just curious, when we say I take refuge in the Buddha, I get taking refuge in the Dharma, like the study, the Sangha, which is like the community, that we're, everybody's in the community and we're all kind of like, in the boat rowing together. But I take refuge in the Buddha, is that like in his journey?
Good question. So the question is around the triple gem that we always say at the beginning. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So let me kind of walk you through these three. But I do want to say this before I forget, because sometimes I get on tangents and forget a lot. The funny thing you said is you get the Sangha because we're all in the boat rowing together. Not everybody's rowing. We're all in the boat. Some row, some don't. But we love each other regardless. I just want to, it's almost like when people say everyone here is like-minded. No, you're not. Trust me. So, but let me do Dharma Sangha and I'll come back to the Buddha. Dharma is, so it's the teachings, right? Before I even get to that, take refuge. When you hear the word refuge, shout out. What does the word refuge mean to y'all? Shelter. What else? Safety. Comfort. Protection, right? So safety, comfort, protection, whatever refuge means to you. The Dharma is in the teachings of the Buddha, right? In Buddhism, they look at kind of small d, big D, capital Dharma, also being ultimate reality. So there's the teachings, what he taught, which is referred to as the Dharma. There's also ultimate reality. And that is opposite or different from everything we perceive, meaning we all see the world through our own lens, our own eyes. But then there's the reality of a situation, which is never what we see. So there's ultimate Dharma, ultimate reality, and the teachings of the Buddha. The Sangha, yes, the community. The time of the Buddha, it was the monks and then the nuns. And then, fast forward to today, a bunch of people get together, meditate, talk about Buddhism, try to do good stuff, and we are the Sangha. So we find safety, comfort, protection, hold each other accountable. Some row, some don't, and we don't care, right? You practice together regardless. The first one is the Buddha. So as I often say, you're not taking refuge in him. He died 2,500 years ago, and he cannot help you at all. When we do offerings to him, we're not praising him. He wasn't a god. He was just some dude who lived 500 years before Christ. He lived, he died at 80, and that's it. And he taught a simple way of life, how to be peaceful and kind, and to stop pissing people off, right? and to be kinder to ourselves and everybody else. What we're taking refuge in is what's called bodhicitta, Buddha nature. That is within all of us. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we're actually recognizing, as the Buddha taught, that we are no different than he was. We wake up, we eat, we go to the bathroom, we sleep, we do a few other things, just like he did. And if the Buddha could figure out how to end suffering, then so can we. So, Buddha nature, as the Buddha said, we're all already awakened. The metaphor I love for this is on a cloudy day. Can you see the sun?
No.
No. Is it there? Why can't you see it? The clouds. Thank you for whoever's playing along. It's making it easy. Right? The clouds are there. The clouds are what the Buddha called the second noble truth, which is the cause of our suffering, the greed, anger, ignorance, our craving, desire, ego, sense of self. I'm more important than you are. I want everything my way. This is all why we suffer. So the practice of these teachings is to put the third noble truth, which is the ending of suffering, is to put the fourth noble truth, the Eightfold Path, into play. All of that's on Google for free, right? Views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. This is the path we put into play to move the clouds out of the way. The greed, anger, ignorance. And then there you see the sun. Just like that Buddha nature is within us right now. You don't have to go somewhere to be enlightened or awakened or find peace or nirvana. You know, it's the same reason everybody comes here. Like, I'm looking for peace. You could have found it sitting at home on your toilet. That's it. It doesn't matter where you are. It's in you. So we take refuge in Buddha nature, which is the awakened being that is within all of us. Yeah?
Thank you.
For sure. All right, last one and then we'll close. Yeah, go ahead.
The question is about the dukkha.
Yeah.
So normally you said it's translated dukkha equates to suffering.
Ah.
What came to mind is it better if dukkha is related to tension, and then you can choose to either hold on to the tension and then you're suffering, or if you release the tension, then you're not, but the dukkha still exists.
You can do it however you want. I mean, the Buddha said very clearly, don't believe this stuff because I'm saying it. Put it into practice. If it works for you, great. If not, abandon it. Right? If putting loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity makes your life more miserable, then by all means abandon it. Right? If being greedy, angry, and ignorant is the way one should be, and that makes them happy, then clearly that's their way. But to your question about tension specifically, I think when I hear the word tension, it's and this is just my interpretation, these are all just semantics really, so however it works for you is great. But tension, to me, is kind of this physical or mental or emotional strain or stress or tightness or something that is still coming from our thoughts and views and judgments of a situation. So if we view reality, which is life as it is, as opposed to life how we want it to be, then tension ceases to exist anyways. So whether you call it dukkha, suffering, tension, stress, anger, anxiety, sadness, depression, discomfort, disease, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. What matters is what is the source of it. The source is we're looking at a situation that we're not okay with, which would cause tension, right? So yeah, I mean, however you define it is totally up to you. Yeah. So I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. Alright, so we'll have a few announcements from our Dharma Bum host Molly before y'all head out.
Hi everyone.
We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library, and if you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you're done with it. Dharma Bum Temple will be marching in the Pride Parade Saturday, July 20th. Please go to our website and click Pride Parade to sign up, or see the flyer on the wall, the QR code. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and watch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you again.